Hello everyone. Welcome back to Spiritism at Noon, a program that we do on behalf of the Spiritist Group of New York. Every Tuesday, we are here together and studying enlightening pages that will help us in our process of spiritual evolvement. At the moment, we are studying from the book A Full Life, written by the Spirit Joanna de Angelis through the medium Divaldo Franco. And we are currently at chapter 14 that talks about self-control. As always, we would like to remind everyone that each chapter brings a different topic, a different subject. So if you have not followed the other chapters, be free to do so and to also enjoy the lessons and the comments that we are going to be making. For the moment, we are going to be sharing our screen. So for those who will be seeing this on the screen, we will be reading from the text of Joanna de Angelis. So, self control. Maybe, Sarada, could you read for us the first paragraphs?
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Self-control. Beyond the physical body, we find the mortal spirit, struggling between the remnants of its primitive stages and the valuable achievements of self-illumination to tame its bad tendencies, those preserved by the instincts as a defense mechanism to indulge in selfishness, is an unpostponable duty in order to defeat that aggressive cancer that exhausts modern society. All or almost all mechanisms of intellectual development induced this stay in the primitive stages, although the force of attraction of the evolutionary process unceasingly calls us to abandon the cave of the ignorant and the prejudiced. I. It is up to human beings to satisfy the imperative need to renew the material imprint in their unconscious, replacing it with the sublime aspirations for moral acquisitions and inner harmony. The unceasing combat against perturbing and belligerent occurrences constitutes an unpostponable duty imposed by the law of progress.
Okay, let's stop here.
Okay.
So, Joana de Angelis, again, in this book, A Full Life, she's talking to us, she's bringing to us the knowledge, the understanding about what it represents for us to achieve this full life. And of course, starting from the point that since we were created as a spirit, simple and an enlightenment, we are going through a process in the process of, remembering that we are immortal spirits of, a process of learning, and the process of learning entails that sometimes we are going to take the good way, sometimes we are going to take the bad way, sometimes we are going to succeed in our doings, having good results. And sometimes we don't, because we will be um, giving ourselves many times to situations that can only complicate our process of evolvement or delay our process of evolvement. So, what she's trying to say here at the very beginning is that since we go through those stages of, being like a blank slate, okay, we are created like a blank slate. We don't have good, we don't have bad, we have directions, so to say. We have a sense of direction, we have an instinct that little by little will develop each time more into reason, into the process of reasoning, into the process of really analyzing things and seeing what are the things that are going to be working in our favor or not. And here, when I'm talking about working in our favor, we are always talking from the spiritual perspective. We are not talking about, what we consider material successes, and that in most cases do not even follow us after the death of the physical body. So, in this sense, since we go through, the process of, very much like when you see a child is always, thinking about oneself, and it's time to feed me. Hey, I'm here. I'm the center of the universe, and I need you to take care of me. I need you to feed me. Like Joanna de Angelis says here. We go through this process of being very selfish and only committed to our own interests, and things that we think that are important. Along the way, of course, in this process, we make choices, and not always very good choices, and we start complicating ourselves. And very much like in life, sometimes we take some paths that we don't know how to avoid them anymore. And this is where she comes to a point where she says, now let's talk about self-control. You're not a derailed train. Even if you're slipping a little bit, you still can take control, and not only still can take it, you should take control of yourself. It's not because so far this kind of behavior, this formula, has been to your liking, not necessarily to your advantaging, but to your liking, that you cannot aspire for something more. And it is actually when the whole process of growing, we outgrow things. Very much like a child. You give a toy to a child that is, the dream of the child. A month later, the child says, no, I don't like this toy anymore. It doesn't interest me anymore. It was nice when a month ago, or a year ago, at a certain point, a certain stage in my life. Now I outgrow this toy. It's the same thing for us here. It comes to a point that things that usually would amuse us or entertain us, or we would think that it was fun and nice, no longer will catch our attention. And this is where she says it comes to a point where the law of progress will be calling us. And there is an unpostponable duty for us to start listening to the what our uh, spirits are yearning now. I no longer want those things. I may not know necessarily what I do want. I still may think that no, this always made me happy. So I'm going to keep on going on this way. And then you see that it's no longer going to fulfill you. And this is when, things start moving, representing a process of growth that she's telling us here. We should not stop, and we should take control. Any question or comment so far? No? Okay, so let's read a little bit more.
Okay. Where are we? With a great deal?
As
Okay.
much as
Okay, right. As much as we stubbornly wish to remain in the deplorable rim of our lower sentiments, it becomes impossible to escape its disastrous effects, that is, the purifying effects of trials and expiations. Every human epoch has enjoyed the blessing of missionaries of love and the truth in their midst, who taught the rules of upright behavior to improve humankind in every respect. Even in the most primitive cultures, sorcerers and shamans were in some way the interpreters of the transcendental world. Everything we ignore holds knowledge hostage, which we must work to liberate. That is the essential purpose of reincarnation, to provide the light of discernment, which shines from the inside out, so that we may conquer our bad inclinations through personal effort. Heralds of knowledge taught the duties of fraternal communion, giving rise to the religious sentiment that would later turn into an ethical and philosophical conduct, whereby they all shared the belief in a greater reality and in a powerful authority. Superior minds stood out, whose messages, unsurpassed by their legitimacy, should mold the character and conduct of all creatures. However, the prevailing activisms took these beliefs to the extreme and becoming diabolical weapons of destruction and indiscriminate killings.
So, again, when we are in times of transition, like, I mean, we are always transitioning, right? But there are, I think, some stages that we can be more stubborn than in others, and that I say, no, I don't want to grow. I'm very comfortable where I am. I want people to take care of me. I don't want to deal with, big responsibilities and things of this nature. But we cannot stop the wheel of progress. Right? We can delay it. We can delay it for ourselves, but we cannot stop it. And of course, unfortunately, some people have been doing that in a very effective way, or it seems to be effective, but they will not succeed in putting it down, because we cannot put down the law of progress. Uh, and it is for this reason that from time to time we will be receiving, like she says here, missionaries of love that will come to us and say, listen, think about something else, go a different path. Whatever their names, like she says, in the primitive cultures, we had sorcerers, shamans, and all of, prophets and visionaries and all of those that we had today, some mediums, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it comes to a point that understanding the immortality, understanding reincarnation, and understanding how much of negativity we still bring within us, negativity in terms of also of, the bad choices, the bad inclinations that we have, and they come in and propose something different. What about treading a different path? You know, I'm sure you're not happy with what is happening. You cannot be happy just, with war, with fear, always fearing that your neighbor is going to come and take what is yours. And what about, thinking about a communion, a fraternity of, spirits or people that would be protecting each other, working with each other, and using all those possibilities for not only for the personal growth, but for the collective growth. And of course, intelligence has nothing to do with moral. And this is the reason why sometimes we will find very smart, intellectual, intelligent people taking paths that are regrettable. And they will regret their actions. They will regret their actions. We can be, if there is one thing that is absolutely sure, is that whatever wrong we do, we will regret our actions. However, we compromise our neighbors, we will regret our actions. And we will regret our actions also in terms of how much we have delayed ourselves on the journey to progress. Any comment or
Yeah.
questions?
It's just that I feel that sometimes when we ignore the progress that we could endure, we're afraid that it's not going to work out. I won't be able to handle it. And so we ignore it. But then what it says here, yes, we're losing if we ignore it, because that's progress. If you have to do what you have to do, do it.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's scary and we don't want to face it.
Mhm.
And it's just a hard thing to do sometimes. I mean, I understand. And if we ignore it, like it says here, we hold hostage to this. We have to work and to liberate ourselves and doing the best that we can. That's what it says here. That's what reincarnation is, to come back, do it right this time. Hopefully we do it right. We come back with less of the same situation. I don't know. I mean,
Yes, I mean, it's understandable because, of course, from the so many different lives, and even sometimes from the one from the past that we lived, we say, I already saw things like that happening, and there's nothing I can do to change.
mm,
And then we take a comfortable position, not necessarily comfortable in the sense of the word, but in the sense of, we convince ourselves that there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can contribute, and we just conform with with situations that should no longer be existing. And here, it's not a call to a revolution or becoming a revolutionary, but it's like, is being true to what is true and being true to yourself. Are you happy with the situation?
uh,
Can you join these roles of, ideas and peoples and etc., or it's uh I mean, for the moment, it may seem that there is little that you can do. But at this point, especially when we are talking about spiritual energy, about, being immortal spirits, we cannot accept defeat. You see, we may be losing some battles, apparently,
mm,
but it doesn't mean that we are going to maculate the moral values that should be guiding human beings.
mm,
So, what can we do? Not join in their roles, not being the one saying, yeah, this is right, or, I'm happy that it came, or in some way saying, yeah, this is the way the world is. It's not the way the world is, the way we make the world.
yeah.
And I mean, if I have a different energy, even if it's like, in terms of praying, meditation, sending, good vibrations for things uh to be a different way. Let's say, like, I mean, me and the cakes again. I want to bake a cake, but I don't have the flour. I need the flour. Someone has to provide the flour. Okay. So, or the yeast. Okay, someone has to provide that. We can be that. We can provide the yeast, the flour for, things that cannot be built yet because there are ingredients missing that we are not providing. And what are the ingredients missing? Positivity, hope, good
Yeah.
energy, belief in the world, belief in the creator, belief that there is control above all things, and that we are not in chaos. Even sometimes chaos will bring um, valuable lessons.
Mm,
Okay. And even if we cannot change so much things now, we can learn from them and always say, listen, pay attention so that history is not going to be repeating itself. And your history, the history of a community, of country, of everything, and this is, I think, what we have to do. We assume this. Oh, I especially us that are older, We'll say, oh, I saw that before. I saw those things before. This is human nature.
Yeah.
No, right? We as human nature, we have been changing. I normally say, look at yourself 2 years ago. It doesn't need to be 5 or 10 years ago. After you got more knowledge and understanding of spirituality, we have been changing. Okay, maybe not as fast as we wanted, but
Mm.
we all have a conscience, and I think this is what we have to keep the light of hope lit,
Yeah.
the flame of hope lit, especially for new generations, because we can very much suffocate their dreams and saying, you know what, you're too young to know, but I went through that so many times and it's
Yeah.
from here to worse,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And then we want them to strive, to have a drive, to do things. What for if you're telling me the world has no fixing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But it requires a lot from us because at
Yes.
some point, like you say, Sarida,
Mm.
we look around ourselves, our behaviors,
Yes.
our lives, our countries, and we say, "Oh my gosh, where do I go from from here?" Right?
Yes.
Okay, take a
Mhm.
deep breath and just keep moving and
Making
keep
the move.
contributing and keeping believing that Jesus is in command, that God is there. And whether we like it or not, for the moment, things are going to fall into place. Our choices, our omissions, our actions or inactions, they are what brings those kind of results. But to think that there will not be consequences, life is made of consequences, of actions and reactions.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else, or should we continue reading?
Okay. We'll continue.
Okay.
With a great deal of difficulty, human beings have managed to find in love the common bond to unite everyone in a single big family, which has not yet come to be, but certainly will in the future. This realization reached its climax with the presence of Jesus on the earth, who came to embrace all things in the condition of brothers and sisters who have had the courage to follow his incompatible example. The many centuries of ignorance and recovery from the slavery, savagery committed in the battle have unfortunately resulted in bleeding grounds for hatred and revenge, which have been steadily defeating the higher ideal of unity. Past and recent attempts to eliminate borders and implementing one language, one currency, and more significant fragile fraternal relations did not take hold for very long, but nonetheless, they taught wonderful lessons on the inherent advantages of that past versus the apparent harm to the economy and the progress of each nation. Successive reincarnations have enabled the renewal of proposed and normal behavior, opening the door to solidarity, justice, joy, and well-being.
See how interesting is what
Yeah.
she's talking about here. We have history. And when I say we have history, it's not the history that we see in the history books, right?
Okay. Yes.
What I'm trying to say goes beyond that. We are part of the history books, right?
Mm.
We are the characters that compose the history books. And because of what we did in the past, conquering other worlds, submitting people to our whims or strength or power, has generated very difficult relationships, vengeful ones, where sometimes we see the hatred between nations because of that, because of domination, because of abuses that were committed. And sometimes when we see uh, people not necessarily committed to reach the necessary peace and harmony among countries and peoples and etc., it's more related to their personal experiences
Mm.
in those historical events. But as Juana de Angelis said here, for a time where we were, being uh, uh, she's here. I think she's even mentioning, uh, of course, past and recent attempts, right? Past attempts. We know the empires, all the empires that brought unification of language and habits and all of this, but more recently as well, the European Communion as well, showing how much more advantageous for us is cooperation, is for us to understand each other, is for us to work together and not being separated by pride of nation that, what is our nation? We are citizens of the universe, not even
Right.
of planet Earth. We
Wow.
started way before planet Earth, and I, for one, do not want to be completely only destined to live in this planet. I want to travel the space, the universe. I want to go and live in other planets, other galaxies. So I don't want to. I don't want to be bound by just one very small white and blue planet, right? I want more colors. I want more things. And so, we keep those uh the selfishness and
Yeah.
pride that has nothing to do with, like, she says here,
Yeah.
solidarity, just the joy, well-being, being together. Uh, but like you always says, right, so right up,
Yeah.
baby steps.
Baby
And
steps. Sure.
so it's not that just because we are listening to this now, or we say, oh, now my life has changed. From now on, I'm just going to be,
Yeah. No.
I've been seeing the yellow bird or whatever color bird it is. I'm always happy, always my life is peach, right? No, we know it's not that easy. But there is no way for us to let pessimistic attitude dominate us, negativity dominate us.
Yes.
We're just going to sum up with the energy of so many people that are feeling the same. And this is not in my own interest. Whether I like it or not, it already impacts me, but I wanted to impact more. And instead of being impacted by the negativity, I would like to be the one that will be representing a shield and being, with this shield sending different energy, the opposite energy, to contaminate people in the good sense of, believe in yourself, believe in truth, believe in morals, because it will come to happen
Right.
with our help or not. It will come to happen. Of course, the more we apply ourselves, the faster it's going to happen. The more we will not be contaminated by it. But it depends on us, right? So
Right.
she's saying here, uh, what we used to see as being competition, opposition, a clash of powers. Now, if we cooperate and work together. Let us look at what happened in the world when we were living COVID-19, for instance. Whether you are pro or against the vaccination, the thing is, with the collaboration of everyone, in a few months we had a vaccine.
Right. Right.
Right. And when, if it was not for that, we wouldn't be having it if everyone was just thinking and acting as I am in a competition, and instead of, working in collaboration. So this is the power of what we can do in just a few months if
Wow.
you understand the objectives, and if something more important than just thinking about your own interests come to happen. But how many more plagues do we have to go through in order to learn that? Each
That's
year
what
we have to go
I
to
say
10
now.
plagues. Sorry, go ahead, Sir. What?
Well, that's what I see now, that, there's so much clash of powers, and it seems like we do not move forward. It's like we're going back, and we have to keep our minds in intact, understanding that these things are going to happen until people understand uh, the changings. It is that we are, I guess, we're not ready. Uh, we need more, and that's scary, but I do what I can and keep my prayers going and be as the best person that I can be. But it's somehow, it kind of scares me. I'm at an age that I'm not going to be here too long, and it's so sad that all this is going to stay behind us, and you see the new generation has to continue, and this is absolutely not good. These clashing of powers all over. I don't understand. Sometimes I get lost in it, and it's just
You
I,
see, sometimes, right, um, when I think about mind control,
yeah,
and I think that I mean, that's my personal opinion. Okay, it's
yeah,
just out of
yeah,
observation. I'm not claiming here that it's something that spiritism is saying, or that is
mm,
correct, and that is the ultimate answer. But sometimes, when I look back at certain, people's domination over other countries or races,
yes,
what I see is a kind of hypnotic dominion of telling the one that is subjugated
yeah,
that the one is not worthy and that it's never going to succeed. So I see that in slavery. I
yeah,
see that in the genocide of the Second World War.
hmm,
Because when we look at this, like, the concentration camps, there were, I don't know how many more uh, prisoners than guards. They
right,
could have retaliated. When we look at the farms with the slaves, there were much more slaves than but I mean, of course, they had guns,
right,
but they had this attitude that you are submissive.
yes,
You are not worth.
right,
You are a person to be subjugated. And I know that there were, like, for instance, in the Second World War, uh, some of the prisoners wanted to have to make to to rebel, but they knew that if they do that, they would go and kill all the children and women.
right.
So they didn't do anything. But what happened? They killed everyone. They killed the woman, they killed the children, they killed themselves, and they killed many, many others. Just because what? They didn't believe in their power and the power of the
Yeah.
group. They didn't believe in themselves. And so now, in a different scale, sometimes it happens the same.
Yes, Yes.
we are dominated by the tyrants, the dictators,
Mhm.
the people that will say, I know, and this is what is good for you.
Yes.
And this is happening in so many different countries. It's not just only in our country, in so many different countries, right? Uh, and like I'm going to take care of you better than you take care of yourself. Really?
Yes.
No one can better take care of yourself than yourself. You
Yes.
know what you need, right? So I think, and that's the derrotist uh, way we put ourselves. And all of that comes from what Joanna de Angelis is trying to tell us here as well, that in the back of our minds, we know there is a long way to go for us.
Yes. Mhm.
There is a past of iniquities, guilt conscience, bad deeds. But listen, I can no longer define myself by what I was. I cannot remain a baby that pulls in the pantry, and that's how the
Yeah.
world sees me.
Yeah.
Cries when I
Absolutely.
want a bink or something. No, I'm no longer that. And I think, we have to be reminded of that, of our power as individuals. And I mean that we are the ones controlling the writing of history. And it may seem that we have been going through too political today. That's not the intention at all. Okay.
Yeah.
We're just talking about life. Politics has no place here in our comments in spiritism. What we're just saying is that we have to be responsible.
Yeah.
We are responsible for our lives. We are the responsible for the life of the the community as well, and the world, right? And I think this is what she's saying. Control yourself.
Yeah.
First of all, do not define yourself but by what it was, is what it is, and what it will become. And remember that you don't have to stay where you were before.
Mhm.
And I know that there will be, the body will crave things, right? The spirit will crave things that were used too. But now it's another time. It's another. You should go for things that are more important. Sonia.
Okay.
And then when we start to change, and then the others around look at us in the beginning, they say, "You're living the illusion. Did you read the news?" But day after day, what's happened with our life and something good happen in our life. And the others, like so pessimist, so down, something bad happened in their lives. And then, in fact, what happened when we really believe this kind of wave of change to progress in our spirits, it's irradiate for the others around us, make us able, as an example, for the others look at us and see this kind of light create around us. I believe, we really believe this is the way we start to change the world with ourselves.
It's interesting what you said, right? Leaving the illusion. What is the illusion? Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I mean, if there is a choice, living an illusion that brings you hope and happiness, and I prefer to live that one. I prefer
Me
the dream.
too.
I prefer the dream instead of the nightmare. All
Oh,
right.
sure, absolutely.
It,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that we are being oblivious to what is happening, in our lives, with ourselves, in the world. But it's like, very much because I said, we were saying, right, Soraya, we have experience
Yeah.
of, bad things happening in the past, but we also have experience of bad thing happening in the past, and they were put down, and
Right.
they ended, and we lived a different situation, and then bad thing happened again, and then
Mhm.
they're gone, and then they came back, and then they're gone. So we know that this shall also pass. Right, and I think this is very important when we think about the situation, and like I said, if there is no one to keep the light on,
Yes.
then it's going to be dramatic. Right, it's
Mm.
going to be dramatic, and I mean, and history tells us, people, kingdoms, they come and go.
Another sentence, then, oh, everybody do this in the wrong way. And then, but I don't want to do things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's my option.
Yeah.
Right.
But everybody, I don't want. It's, in fact, it not means it's the right way to live. If everybody do, it's a mistake.
Right.
It's wrong. Wrong is still be wrong. And then, but it's not easy, this kind of option. We need to make every day in our life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
It's really hard because that's, people who, I mean, misery loves company, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so they really want more people, you know,
Miserable.
yeah, saying, no, you're right to be angry, you're right to
Right.
behave
Right.
like this way, no, I don't want to be contaminated. I was thinking again about an example of Divaldo. It's someone presents you with a bad gift,
Mhm.
right? You're
Yes.
not obliged to accept.
Right.
You're giving it to me, but I don't want it.
Mm.
I want different things. And I think this is what we are, where we are now. And this is what she's saying, the self control. We cannot allow ourselves to be dominated just because
Right.
everyone thinks this way, just because, well, no, it's because, you live in an illusion. It's because it's religion. It's because it's spirituality. It's because, well, I mean, it's because of religion. I can say it's because of lack of religion. I can say it's because of spirituality. I can say it's because of the lack of spirituality.
Mm.
Everyone has a say in that, and everyone has the possibility of choosing. But the thing is, what is the self control here that she's talking about? Me continue defining me by what I wear, letting the impulse instinct take over. Because, sometimes, yes, this is what is going to happen. We cannot deny that there is still a long road for us. There is still much a lot of bad things in us that we don't like, and we have to tame, and we have to remove from the roots, that we are working on it.
Yes. That's what I think, Josara. Because we're working at it and we're not going to be convinced of any petty ideologies, anything that becomes less of good, I surely won't. And I think it's because we have um, a lot to understand the difference between what's happened in the world in the past and what's happening now. And then keep in mind to keep ourselves positive for the future and move on.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very hard thing to do for many people, but I look at it that way. You know, with our understanding that there is a God here and he knows what is good for us and what's to happen. You know, have the faith, keep it in your heart and move forward.
And you see, if it not for us, for the future generation, you yourself is a grandmother, right? Great
Great.
grandmother, right? You may say, well, this uh, physical body is not going to be here
Right.
to,
Too long.
but my spirit will be back.
Right.
And for sure, I have a responsibility for the generations that I help it put it into the world, right? And this is, I think, this is our drive. Otherwise, you're being completely selfish, right? I mean, my drive is to provide something better for future generations, and I'm going to be one of those future generation. Marcel?
I was thinking about this, you know, when we are talking about self-control, about our thinking. I think we are in a moment that we try to control our thoughts. So I will give an example that happened today. So I start my day happy, went to the gym. My husband was there doing gym, and I'm biology. I'm worried about the planet, and I always use my bottle. And he doesn't use bottle. He feels that it's easy to get a new couple plastic, and true. I already talked to him and he doesn't change. And I'm start thinking that moment, this is my thought. I did my best. I can't control others. I just can control my thoughts and my energy. If I start now feeling bad and vibrating bad things because his attitude, I will destroy my day because of a time thing that I can't control. So for me, when she's talking about self-control, is I think we already changed our attitude. We don't do anymore. Well, we do, but not super bad things. But I think we start changing this kind of things, you know, about thoughts. So I can't control others. I can't. So why I start vibrating bad things? When we see or we saw bad things happening, we just need to do is changing, you know, this way to thinking. Okay, he's not ready to change. I did my best, and I will follow my day with good vibration. So when she's talking about self-control, I'm thinking about this, you know, how we can control our energy, vibration, thoughts. In a minute we can change for bad thing, for bad, you know.
Yes.
And sometimes it's so funny how people react because now that you're going to be stop nagging him, maybe he will say, "Well,
Well, yeah.
why is she not complaining anymore?" Or, you
That's a good
know,
point.
uh, she doesn't care, or she thinks that I'm a lost case, or maybe it's going to be more intriguing. And maybe you have to say, yeah, you have to be responsible for your acts. I'm not going to be behind you like you're a little child if you have not developed this sense of responsibility toward the world yet.
Right.
It's up to you now. And now he's going to feel the weight of
Ah, I
responsibility.
gave up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is surprising. It is surprising sometimes how it happens when, or when of your children will come to him and say, "Dad, how come you don't do that?" And he
Yeah.
will feel ashamed, right?
Sometimes we need to respect the time of the people. Sometimes this people he doesn't care because he is thinking other thing is, and I don't blame him because a lot of people is, I don't know, but I feel like, uh, killing me when I saw this cup going to the trash, because I'm worried about the planet. But I need to vibrate good because it's not my fault. I did my best. So I need to calm down my thoughts and I need to have self-control.
And
Absolutely.
like I always
Absolutely.
say, sometimes, we are not capable of doing the simple things, but we do the hardest one. So it is a process, and for each one is going to be different.
Yes.
um women are used to always be carrying things, purses and etc., and men always go free with their hands. I don't want to be care,
Yeah.
just want water when I want to drink water, and that's it. I finish with it and that's it.
Is
And
this?
yeah, it's but it's a very interesting, I think, point, because
Yeah.
it shows us, well, again, it's all about us. She called the lesson self-control, right? As self means self. It doesn't mean somebody else, others self-control or something like, no. It's us. It's me, right? And what am I going to be doing with that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not going to be finishing because I think there are other things that she discussed in the chapter that are interesting. We can continue next week.
Okay.
And, but so we still uh, will continue um, trying to gather more knowledge and understand from the subject when we continue next time.